ruled to leave Roe versus Wade up to the states. A lot of consternation. There's been a lot of consternation, particularly on a ruling something that Clarence Thomas wrote in his writings, and it talked about looking at basically gay marriage and gay relationships. One of the reasons I know that won't happen is because there are white men who are gay. One of the reasons I know that they won't go after interracial marriage is because there are white men who are married outside of their race, and white men never vote to diminish their rights. Never them. Never. It's never them. If you look at the Supreme Court ruling recently, one was to roll back the protections of the Miranda Act, which they don't think affects them, and the other one was abortion rights, which doesn't affect them. So they're never going to do anything they participate in that can impact them. If you're gay and you're white, the most important part of that sentence is that you're white. If you're interracial marriage and you're white, the most important part of that sentence is that you're white. So I think those protections will be fine because they never vote to impact their freedoms. But what's interesting to me, that the 13 states, these trigger states that decided to enact laws right away, the only reason people move there is because it's affordable. The only reason people move to those states is because they can have a better standard of living, they can have a better house, the price of living is lower, they get to live there, they get to be there and pay less. But the one thing they will not pay for is the price of freedom. The only reason to live in some of these states is because it doesn't cost that much to live there. So what they're going to do, the only reason businesses go there, the only reason people move there, even though their populations tend to be older and smaller, and the places where people are moving within those states are always the blue cities. Always the blue cities. People that are moving to these states to avail themselves to the lower cost of living, lower housing prices, they do that, and they still live in primarily blue areas in those states. What do you think is going to be the impact right now when there are companies who are saying, we'll pay to move you to a blue state where you can have a choice? There are corporations saying, we'll pay you so you can be able to avail these services in a blue state. What incentive will they be for corporations to move there having to go through that? What incentive will there be for people to move there having to go through that? The only advantage you really had was you made it easier to live there. If you make it harder, what do you think the fallout for that will be? How many people are going to show up to move in Louisiana and have to go through this? How many people are going to show up to move to Mississippi and have to go through this? How many people are going to show up to move in Arkansas and have to go through this? Because the advantage you had was that it was a lower cost of living. You could afford a nicer home. You could pay less in taxes. You got to live a better standard of living. But if that standard of living, if your way of life costs people freedom, they will refuse to go there. You're hurting yourself. You're cannibalizing on yourself. Even right now in the states that did have these trigger laws, look at some of the blue cities that are saying we won't enact them. But I do not worry that gay people are going to have their rights infringed on because there are enough powerful white gay men that will not happen. Interracial marriage, there are enough white men who are married to people outside their race that won't happen. What they will continue to do is to roll back the protections of others. It's the Miranda Act. It's women now. It'll be other civil rights then. It'll be workers. But they will never, ever, ever impact them. And by them, I mean the upper echelon. I don't mean the ones who are poor and who are just like us, basically. I mean the other ones. This is much to do about nothing to believe they're going to do anything that impacts them. They will never, ever take their rights and diminish them, ever. It is always the others. And right now, whether people like to admit this or not, 6 of the justices that are ruling on this were picked by men who did not win the popular election. 3 of them, Donald Trump lost the popular election by almost 5 million votes, and he's picking the justices that decide the country for centuries. We are being ruled by the minority. And right now, 33% of people approve of what the Supreme Court did. They would only do that. Where in anywhere else would 33% decide that they will make a major move like this? That they would overhaul settled law. And who would accept that all those people got on that stand and basically said that they would not touch Roe versus Wade because it was settled law? If you lied at your job, if they found out you blatantly lied at your job, you would lose it. But because we give deference to these people in these robes, they can say and do anything to get a job, and nothing happens to them. 33% of the country approves of what they did. 33% of the country think we're moving in the right direction. And the problem is they're mostly from these trigger states, these 13 states that have decided to pull us backward. One of the things you can be sure of, that white people, white men will never, white men specifically, will never do anything that infringes on their rights. That's whether it's gay marriage, or whether it's interracial marriage, they won't do that. What they're going to do is roll back the protections of others. Others. And everybody outside of that paradigm is others. We're being ruled by men who have decided that this is the best way forward for them. This is the best thing for them. It doesn't hurt them. They get to live up to their consciences. They get to shape the country the way they want to. I don't know if white men can jump, but they can damn sure pass laws and strike down laws that benefit them. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the strategy report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.